Yo guys, it's JJ here, and today I'm be walking you through a tutorial on how to make some emotional and dark beats just for Lil Durk, as he has just dropped a new album called Nightmare in the Trenches. But before we get into the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We have just passed 1.7k subs on the road to 2k, really pushing it. Support's been going crazy, and again, I do deeply appreciate it. So to show some love back, bunch of free drum kits down below. Go grab that free on me, and to get the latest one that I am using in this video, go check out my Instagram in the description as well. And let's just jump straight into it. So, first thing I want to note is, when it comes to a Lil Durk beat, we all know he's got to have a piano. So I'm using this VST called Piano V3, but obviously just use your own. And the preset that I'm using is a little go-to of mine called the German Classical Clean. And looking at the pattern, we are doing this in the F minor scale at 155 BPM. But as I've noticed, a lot of Lil Durk kind of stuff ranges between the 140 to 170 BPM. So I thought, let me land somewhere in the middle around like 155. But looking at the pattern, it's actually quite simple, and that's the beauty of these things, because Lil Durk loves a good piano melody. And to break it down, we'll start off with our chords, as you can see over here. Starting off with that nice little F. Then I create a nice little bit of bounce before we get into the next 4 bar. But then take it down to that D sharp, creating a bit of emotion. And then into that C at the very end with a little bit of bounce again at the end of the 4 bar. And then I place these notes above over here, which if you see over here, it would have made a triad if I placed this extra note in, but I take it out. So it's essentially a triad, just using the first and the third note and taking out that second one. Same applies here and here. Then I just place the notes an octave higher, as you can see, same kind of thing. And then for a bit of emotion, I add these nice little like stepping notes or transitional notes, if you even want to call it. Same goes over here. And then focusing lastly on this top pattern, it's as simple as going from an F, climbing up the scale to that C, where we skip that middle A sharp note. And it gives it a nice little dark repetitive vibe. Chords provide some good emotion. And then all I did was click Alt R, bringing up this velocity randomizer, playing with it, getting a random velocity. And then I clicked Alt S to bring up my strummerizer. And then as you can see, just strum it, making it sound more human and natural. And now with all that being said, this is what the main melody sounds like. And there we have it. As you can hear, very emotional and dark. But for the effects, I got myself a nice little EQ, cutting off all my lows firstly. Then a little instant of Soothe 2, using a preset called the Piano Enhancer. And what this helps with is just acting as a compressor, taking out some frequencies that I wasn't a big fan of. Of course, some RC20, really love this. But if you don't have this, get an instance of Isotope Vinyl. I think it's free if I'm not wrong. Super dope plugin as well, pretty much does the same thing. And last but not least, some Valhalla Vintage Verb, just to add a bit of ambience and further support that emotional dark vibe we are going for. And as you can see, I stereo separated this around 25%, just to widen it a bit within the headphones, making it sound a bit more larger than life. And next up, I got myself an instance of Contact 7, using a band called the Choir Essentials with a preset called Woman Performance. And all this is just a little choir. So if you don't have Contact 7, Expansive has really good choir sounds, Omnisphere as well, but this is just one I like to use. And as we can see from the pattern, it's actually quite simple. What I did was follow that nice little chord progression I was talking about, with that like first and third note within the triad, as you can see highlighted over here. But then I created my own little top line over here, just so we could follow a nice little kind of emotional pattern. And I am making use of these notes, as you can see, where they're all a semitone apart, to help further reinforce that dark vibe. And then notes that are 2 semitones apart, like this instance, and for example here as well, that's what kind of gets you that kind of like sadness, emotional vibe. And same applied to those chords before, so just keep that in mind when you're making these kind of beats. But that's pretty much it. So without further ado, this is what the choir sounds like. And there you all have it. As you can hear, really backing up that emotional dark vibe. As for the effects, pretty simple. Got an EQ, cut some highs and lows just to radio out a bit of the harsher frequencies and the lower ones. Then some Valhalla Vintage Verb with a heavy amount of reverb, because this is more like a background element, as you could hear, supporting that piano, carrying that emotion. And of course, I had to stereo separate it around 50%, again making it much wider, just to add further to that whole background element. Next up, I got myself an instance of Analog Lab 5, using a preset called the Source Bass. You all already know it, comes from Artillery Bank. It's Max Shooter Bank and Easy A. That's just how I pronounce his name, but super dope bank. And guys, Max Shooter and that guy Easy A, bro, if you guys see this video, please, I want to work with you. Like, you guys are fire. But point being, this is the pattern, pretty simple, following the root notes of the chords, which is the F, F, D sharp and C. And now this is what the bass sounds like. And there we have it. All the bass does, as you already know, fill in that low frequency range, and it just really gives it a nice sound. And next up, we have got ourselves a preset from my kit called the bell preset. It's that yeet bell that we all know and love, including them trap beats. It's just a common bell, we all know it. Pretty simple, and the pattern is just like my bass. Follow the root notes every bar. I follow the root notes every 2 bars, so going from F to F to D sharp into that C, and it's pretty simple. So without further ado, this is what the bell sounds like. And there we have it. As you can hear, that bell gives it a nice kind of like, again, supporting element, makes it feel grand, nice, dark, emotional. As for the effects on the bell, it was pretty simple and straightforward. Got an EQ cutting off my lows and just ducking a few highs. And then a fair bit of reverb, as you can see from the preset that I made, just making it more ambient, and it sounds just super grand in this beat. I really enjoy the way this bell's been used. It's pretty simple, but then again, it does its job very, very well. And next up, we have got ourselves an instance of Expand 2, and I am using the preset called the Soft Legato Strings from the Strings Bank, ironically. But in terms of the pattern, it's pretty simple yet again, and all this is like another background element like the choir, but it's a bit more prominent than the choir, and it just further reinforces that dark emotional vibe, supporting the piano. But looking at the pattern, again, following those root notes very much simply, then I create my own little top line, as you can see over here, and that's all I really did. Again, making use of these dark notes, as you can see over here and here, and then over here, and over here. These notes are 2 semitones apart, giving it a bit more of an emotional touch. And then last but not least, all I did was click Alt-R, pulling up my randomizer, and playing with the velocity again, making it sound more human. As for the effects, it was pretty simple again. Gone over EQ, cutting off some highs and lows, with a hollow vintage rip to add some ambience, and then I stereo separated it 40% to make it a bit wider and add as another background element. And now, with all that being said, this is what a sample for Nightmares in the Trenches by Lil Durk sounds like. But now we're going to move on to the drums, and bear in mind, all these drums are from my latest kit, the Essential Kit, found on my Instagram. But with that being said, let's just get into the drums. First thing to note, we are doing the clap pattern. Pretty straightforward, but is there anything else that needs to be said? No. And now we're on to the hi-hat pattern, using the Brazy hat from the kit. It's a very nice simple pattern. It literally just repeats itself every 4 bar. Essentially, it's a 2 bar loops over, but I literally add like one little element for change. But let me just break it down. If we focus on this 2 bar here, first of all, I start off with a half step roll, then a normal step, and I'll take out a note for a bit of bounce, let it play normally, add a step roll, and then remove that 1 note. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. That's the whole pattern. But then for the second 2 bar, which becomes that, 4 bar, all I did in terms of variation was, instead of having this roll go at the beginning, I had a half step roll go here, and then instantly after that I have a normal step roll, and then another step roll here, and then I left this little space yet again. And all I did was right click at the top, drag to the left, Control B, and that copy and paste it for the full 8. So this is what the hi-hat and the clap sound like. But next up, we're on to our 808s, and I am using that spins 808 of course. But looking at the pattern, it is very simple and straightforward. It's just a 4 bar looped over. However, I'm just adjusting the notes to the pitch of the root notes. So looking over here, got myself a very nice little bounce at the beginning. Then I get myself this nice little bounce again. But instead of having this middle note here, I add it to the end over here, just to give it a bit more of like a harder punch. And then I add this extra note in. Then I do the same thing as the beginning of that 1 bar, just play it here at the 4 bar, and this is D sharp of course. But then for the final root note, I got myself the same pattern again, but I add this nice little extra note here, just to wrap up that 8 bar. And then for my kick, I'm using the bow kick, which is a very, very punchy kick. And all I do is just place it on the same notes where the 808s are hitting, which is in that C note. And then something I do for both my 808 and my kick, and I say this in every video, I click Control A, hearting all my notes. Then I grab that mouse, push that scroll wheel down, and then push it all the way to the top, as you can see. And what that does is it maxes my velocities out, which applies to both my 808 and my kicks. And there's 2 main reasons I say this. Number 1, makes your drums much punchier, and number 2, artists love punchy drums. So if you do that, it'll lead to more placements. That's how we do it out here. So take that little bit of sauce with you. Now, with all that being said, this is what the 808 and the kick sound like. next up, it's time to wrap up with the final two elements. First one being a nice little accent snare is the DY snare. Comes in every 2-bar. Simply put, looking over here, and then I just place it at this nice little note, giving it a bit more of an extra bounce. And then the final thing I did was add these nice little congos as a nice little roll at the end of the 8-bar, giving it a nice little transition. Now, with all that being said, this is what a Nightmare in the Trenches beat for Lil Durk sounds like. And that's that. But before we wrap up the video, let's just move on to the beat structure. To break down the structure, it's pretty straightforward. We first of all start off with 2 8-bars as the intro, but all I do is start off with that piano, the bass and the bell. But then for the second 8-bar, I now introduce that choir, remove that bell and have the hi-hats playing alongside my producer tag just before the drop. And coming in to the chorus, it's a total of 2 8-bars, making it a 16-bar chorus. And all I do is have my piano and the bell play by themselves in the beginning with all the essential drums, and have those congos lead into the next 8-bar, which consists of the same pattern, but I add that nice little extra snare and that choir pattern back in. But then coming into the verse section, it's 3 8-bars in total. First one being very simple, having my 808, hi-hat and clap alongside that piano and nothing else. But then considering it, we're building up the energy a bit, and I will introduce those strings, which is a new element to the beat, keeping it like a little bit of variation. And I got them congos in, I got that snare in, but then onto that final 8-bar, which is known as the pre-hook or the pre-chorus. And this 8-bar is essentially that 8-bar just before that chorus, and you want to build up the energy just before it drops. All I do, to make that quite simply put, take away all my drums, reintroduce that bass, the bell, the strings, and the main melody, and at the end of the day, it sounds really dope, really build up that energy for the chorus. And then we're back in with the same chorus here, and then the same chorus for the end pattern, but I introduce the strings for the final chorus because it's the final chorus, gives it a dramatic ending. And then as you can see, the same pattern for the verse, but all I did was add a little clap and a kick halfway through that 8-bar. And there you have it, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, I'm really grateful for all the support, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Almost at 2K. Let's just keep getting this, gang. And hey, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.